Hello and welcome back to The Dive, Season 2, Episode 22.
222. Nice, Chad.
Yeah, there's lots of
We
twos.
made it, finally. Two is his favorite number.
Last week we fulfilled our obligation to make an Euphoria promo. If you missed that, look up Euphorium Car Emporium. I feel like we actually got the better end of that bet, even if we lost, because we made the cool video.
I told you, if we're going to do something, even if it's for a cause other than our own, we're going to do it well.
Something about lemons and lemonade. You know?
Yeah.
And
Lose a
cars.
bet, make a
And
car
cars,
commercial,
yeah.
for some reason.
And bad Texan accents.
Yeah. This week we're talking about the trade, Innovation NA, the patch, and then also the NA LCS in general, like usual. But we're going to start off the top with the trade deadline. There wasn't a flurry of activity across the league, but there was a flurry of activity from one individual team. Echo Fox had the one trade we saw, which was Smoothie to Echo Fox for Fang. We're going to talk about that. But then also they made some acquisitions onto their academy team and ended up dropping Phoenix, Altec, and Adrian. So let's actually start with the trade first. The acquisition of Smoothie for Fang.
Yeah, Echo Fox super happy with that trade, right?
Yeah.
That's everyone's first reaction is, wait a second, what else was tied up in this trade? Because we were sitting in a situation where Cloud9 had two good supports, and everyone is all riled up because Smoothie is not in the LCS. They made a post from Cloud9 side that said Smoothie, you know, he came to them and he obviously wants on a starting roster.
Yeah.
So from the Cloud9 post, they said they, you know, had multiple options there or whatever, and they wanted to do the best for him, and Smoothie himself thought that Echo Fox was the best place for him to succeed. This is a #1 tied team. So from that post or whatever, from their point of view, it looks like, you know, Jack and Cloud9, they are trying to gain you know, community favor and, you know, staying good standing with the players, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super exciting trade from the Echo Fox point of view because traditionally, I mean, recent weeks kind of notwithstanding, you would say Huni had been a bit of a problem. But for a long time, people have talked about the Echo Fox bot lane as a weakness, and there has been a lot of talk about Loss, the OCE import, that he's maybe better than Altec. But, okay, well, you have Phoenix, so you have to wait for Demonte, then he gets suspended. There's all these issues kind of making it complicated to actually get the players in that they wanted to. Not only now are they going to be playing with Lost and Demonte, who they had been wanting to play with, Smoothie, I think, is just a pretty big upgrade over Adrian. Like, this is a guy who, you know, it's crazy that he wasn't really starting in the LCS at all. And at the halfway point of Spring Split, he probably would have been the MVP. He would have been who I would vote for. So he did fall off in the later half of Spring Split. But, you know, Spring Split obviously was an MVP candidate. Summer Split the previous year, people had been considering him as either the #1 or #2 support alongside Olay. Echo Fox made a big pickup. This should significantly improve their team.
Yeah, I feel like most teams in the league would be happy to have Smoothie on their roster. So if you're looking at it from purely just a player-for-player type transition, is great for Echo Fox. But I like what Kobe said kind of at the start. We know so little about the whole picture of this. Like, was it Fang plus cash considerations? Was it actually Cloud9 just actually doing Smoothie a solid after not letting him play for the first half of the Spring Split? We don't know any of this stuff without knowing the player salaries or without actually knowing the deal. All we get is the Cloud9's announcement that says, "Thank you, Smoothie," and the Echo Fox announcement that says, "We've acquired him for Fang."
Yeah, I mean,
and the other thing that I mean, it feels like in the league, supports were pretty highly sought after right now, right? There's a couple of, you know, high value teams that have been having problems with their supports.
Yeah, even so many people talking about that.
Yeah, my biggest thought when the trade deadline was approaching, Cloud9 have, you know, two hot commodities here where they're overloaded in the support position.
They had the assets.
I felt like there would be a lot of, you know, possible buyers or whatever. So it was very interesting to me, the wording of the post, because Jazz talking about, like, we don't know all the other things that went into it. And
to me, there's so many teams that would want either Smoothie or Zazel. If Cloud9 was actually willing to part with one, it's for more reasons than just so this guy can compete against us. Like, there has to be something else that was part of the deal.
So, I mean, I obviously don't know what else could have gone into it, but my immediate thought is, okay, well, you dropped Phoenix, Altec, and Adrian, 3 starters from your team, right? Like, when I think, okay, well, why wouldn't you just put them on your academy team? To me, the clear the obvious reason is money, right? You're paying an LCS starter contract, which is going to be massively above what the average academy player makes. So if you are then sending, you're going to dump however many thousands of dollars into getting Smoothie as well, like cash considerations, you drop those players. Maybe that's part of the reason that they're actually creating some budgets to be able to then grab Smoothie alongside that cash. And that's what makes me think of.
Yeah, now you're jumping to the second part of this, which was what he was talking about, the dropping of all these other players, which a lot of people on Reddit, there's an uproar. How could you do this to these players? They didn't have, a lot of time to, after they were dropped.
Yeah, specifically the timing of all of this was, I think, roughly 6 hours before the roster lock happened. Trade deadline and roster lock happened at the same time. They were released. And then they didn't find a team in the next 6 hours, so now they have no one to play for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, but what Zale was bringing up here is these players have starting LCS contracts attached to them, right? So when people are looking for trades, and Echo Fox, let's say they were looking for people to trade Altec 2 and Phoenix 2 and all these people. If you're going to make that trade, then you're trading for the LCS contract, and you're not sure if Altec is willing, even with how things have gone, to like renegotiate whatever down. But then again, only 6 hours or whatever. That's why people are kind of like, oh, it's unfair to the players. They didn't have time to, find something. And now they don't get to play at all because the rosters have been locked already for Worlds and stuff. But if you also look at it from the team's point of view, let's say the solution that people have been offering, if you have the trade deadline and like a drop deadline or whatever first, and then some window before you actually have to lock your roster, so people can pick up free agents. However, that is better for players, but think about for the teams. Because then if I'm in a situation where you want to trade me a player, and I know that like I'm the only team that would want this player because I'm the only team that has a X import slots work out, and I'm the only one that actually needs let's say a top laner or something like that. I can say no, I don't want your trade. Wait till the trade deadline expires. Then you're gonna drop him because he's got a big contract attached to him. So then now he's a free agent. So now I can just trade with the player or talk to the player, negotiate with him, and I don't have to give anything else over to this other team. So that's another window maybe that people aren't considering while they're fully focused on player side and player backing. And there are other things that could come up when these types of rules are in place.
And I mean, Jat, you had a chance to talk to Greeley, the commissioner, about this a bit, but obviously a lot of it comes back to contract stuff that we've talked about in previous episodes. Players, need to protect themselves from this sort of stuff by getting, a guaranteed, amounts if they get dropped in their contract, right? Like having guarantees or having some sort of protection from that. And I think that's something that we don't really have insight into if these players get money when they got dropped.
So the people that know exactly what types of contracts these guys are signing is the player and the org, right? And maybe the agent if they have one. And I think that's something that is super underdeveloped, and we've talked about that multiple times on this show. Now that there is a players association, this is, I think, the real stuff they should really be focusing on, is trying to find a scenario where they can have a little bit more power. Because technically, right, what happens here is if Echo Fox doesn't want Altec or Adrian to be on the team, they cut them. And we don't know if we don't know for sure if their contracts were guaranteed, if they're partially guaranteed, or if they're completely unguaranteed. But it is my understanding from talking to a few people that a lot of contracts are mostly non-guaranteed. And that's the rumor that was on Reddit as well, is that these guys get cut and they're no longer getting paid. But that is also just part of a negotiation. Like this does happen in much more developed sports too, depending on the league, how guaranteed contracts are, and depending on the individual, how guaranteed their individual contract is. And I think right now the balance is heavily in the favor of the owners, and it feels really bad for Altec and Phoenix. There's no way around it that in this situation, they were probably making good money during the regular season, and now that they don't have a spot in Echo Fox, they're making no money. And that's something the Players Association, I think, should step up in the offseason and try and get a bit of a solution to.
I mean, this is definitely going to put the scare into all of the players, right? Even if they're not affected by this, they can see Altec's situation. And this is and Phoenix and Adrian. And this is definitely a very scary situation for them to be in, and sucks, but that might create some change, right?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a way that I would look at it is, obviously just random number, but if you're getting, your main contract, an LCS starting position is worth $10, right? And an academy position is worth $3 or whatever it is, right? Then to me, it makes sense. Like, not that you would get guaranteed $10 if you are really like slacking in performance and you're not living up to that, but maybe that you would get that guaranteed $3, like in the idea that you can essentially be, or like some sort of clause where you can be moved to that sort of a salary if you're moved to the academy team, something along those lines where the players have some protection. But teams are obviously like, I don't think teams are going to ever agree to pay you out, at least at this stage in our sports, unless you're maybe a mega superstar, to pay full salaries, full LCS starting salaries if someone gets dropped, because the turnaround and like is not there, or sorry, the longevity is not really there in our sport just yet. Like, where people have proven that they can play for 10 years straight at that level, like the drop off from one year to another can be so extreme.
Yeah, I think it actually even might further stratify like the difference in player discrepancies here, because the guys like Doublelift that you're talking about, who would be one that's like coming to the table with a lot of negotiating power, and it's like, I want a guaranteed buyout or whatever. Those are the players that are least scared about getting dropped, right?
Yep.
If Doublelift gets dropped, you better believe a bunch of these other teams are like, okay, here you go. Here's
well, I mean, we've seen that happen a couple
and they're
times.
Like, 6 hours? That's plenty of time. I can throw together 10 contracts.
Yes, sir.
Right
yes, sir. How much? How much?
Exactly. Take your pick or whatever.
Right.
But then the lower players that are like, oh, I am scared of getting dropped or whatever, it's so much more difficult for them to negotiate something like that into their contract, and for them to like lower the bottom even more. It's kind of an interesting thing that this would do if they don't have some sort of governing power or come together. So I think that's interesting, and we'll continue to track how that does develop.
The last thing I kind of want to touch on a little bit is just opinions on, from C9 point of view, they're in 10th place right now. You just made a competitor stronger, like, at least arguably. I would say definitively.
Yeah.
That, like, how do you feel about that? Because Cloud9 fans already seem extremely disillusioned. They already seem very frustrated with the organization as a whole. And now, whether it's for players' best interests or not, you're trying to make it to Worlds. They have never missed Worlds. They need to make it to playoffs at the very least to even have a chance of going to Worlds. And you just buffed up one of your competition, made them even stronger. Like, that's one less spot. That's one less win maybe that you're going to be getting.
They played on Sunday, by the way.
That's pretty crazy.
I was going to have that as like our looking forward match.
Fourth game of Sunday. So I think, to your question, Azael, they definitely made them stronger, but I am okay with it, right? In that sense, well, like I do like their messaging in this case, whether or not they got cash on top of the trade. Having a player of Smoothie's caliber, if you're not going to use them, I think I would have preferred that Cloud9 leverage that for like a package of academy players that were promising, or we don't have draft picks, like some way of future strengthening of their organization. But assuming that they're putting that money towards future development of their league scene or whatever happens, like it's good. I think in the short term, it doesn't help them at all as far as their playoff push. In fact, it potentially hinders them, because if Zeyzal starts playing poorly, they have no backup plan anymore. But I like it for Smoothie.
They got Fang.
Yeah, I mean, this is as far as as long as it all checks out and Smoothie's like, yes, this is the one I want or whatever, and this is in his best interest, then yeah, this is Cloud9 trying to, I think, gain some favor back with the community, right? Because there was so much flack over, the benching of all these stars.
But as far as
they don't want to put on top of it, they kept Smoothie in academy jail. Like, that would just be super terrible. So,
well, it's also really nice for Zeyzal. It probably makes him feel a little bit more secure on Cloud9. But moving on,
but watch out, Fang coming for that spot, baby.
That's true. Could be. I mean, if he slips up. Bjergsen, there was a quote from him, interview with Travis. The quote is, "The backlash is stupid. There's a lot of complaining at international events that North America doesn't have their own identity and we're not willing to innovate. And then when you innovate, you get bashed." He also referenced the CLG game with the Kled funnel that they did the other day, where fans are flaming them and kind of the feeling that is unfair and that it could have worked out. And he understood the thought behind that. He referenced the Talia funnel that they tried that didn't work out. Obviously, I can think of them running Galio for a while, getting flamed, and that it works out. So there are lots of examples of this.
Yeah, I think across the board, there is always going to be a tendency to go with the results for whether or not the innovation worked or not. And there's nuance in this conversation. I don't think that you can have it both ways. Like, oh yeah, we tried Smite Kled mid and it didn't work, but you told us to innovate, so really, what else were we supposed to do? Like, you're going to get bashed for innovating poorly, and you will get praised for innovating well. It's just a matter of now, how are we judging what good means versus what bad means beyond did it win or lose? That's where I think the nuance needs to come.
I mean, if we're taking this word for word, backlash for innovating in itself, just for innovating, then I think there's
I don't think is what's happening.
There's no positive
I
to
think
that.
he just means the
Well,
picks.
what is happening is results-based analysis where if you try something new and you win with it, then you get the praise. But if you try something new and you lose with it, even if the theory behind it is good, well, we'll have Jat do interpretive dance while I explain the situation. I think this is good.
So Jad has read it.
Yeah, Jad has read it. Obviously, a lot of things, especially when you're attempting them on stage for the first time, even if the theory behind it is good, even if you had 80% win rate or something with it in scrims, and you have, so you basically have as much data as you've been able to collect in your week of scrims or whatever, trying this new thing out, all point towards the positive. If you lose on stage with it, something like that, then people will just jump down your throat like the entire idea is bad. And it's because a lot of people like to act like, oh yeah, I knew all along that would never work out. And I thought the Kled funnel mid thing for COG was a pretty good example.
Because Bjergsen references that in the interview. He says that he thinks that he saw some good stuff in that COG, and he's happy that they tried something that wasn't seen in any other region. So go into detail about why you liked it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there was a lot of good parts of the theory, right? It wasn't just that looking from their side, they're crafting this composition where they just want to dive on people, right? They also are trying to manipulate the standard way that bans are going. Everyone is banning Aatrox and Nocturne, and then like Tilly or Zoe or whatever is left up for the third one on red side. And people are feeling red side is this huge disadvantage. So CLG spent their time innovating, trying to come up with something where, all right, we're not going to ban one of these permabans. Nocturne's getting through, but Nocturne excels, at killing a squishy. So we are actually going to craft our comp around not having, one squishy, marksman or something for them to dive into. We're going to have a bunch of bruisers, and we're going to actually initiate on the Nocturne team, which is really good strategy, right? That's the main weakness of this champion. Build full damage, so it should be, easier to work around. And if the early game hadn't gone the way that it had for this squad, we saw the effectiveness of a dive comp with this, right? With having a Kled and the Mundo and the rest of the I feel it's like Sejuani or something with the stuns behind it, super effective at getting to the back and diving, which they were against Team Liquid, right? One of our best, basically standard style of team. So I thought that the backlash was, in that case, really unwarranted.
Yeah.
Just because I like the theory so much, and I know that in practice that things can go so differently on stage, right?
And my understanding was that they actually, this was not just like, I guess we're running Kled mid because of the draft.
This
is
they
they'd prepared. It worked well in scrims, had been going well for them. Same thing with Renekton and whatnot. And it's like, you have to play by the numbers. Like you talked about the 80%, like even if something is winning, like if you think it's worked 7 out of 10 times, that is like your first place if you're winning 7 out of 10 times most of the time, right? So it's like that is a strategy that should be very reliable, but that can go on stage and you can hit that 30%. Like you can have the off game, you can make a mistake that costs you a game, no matter how reliable or how strong a strategy is. And another example that was brought up was obviously the Caps game that a lot of people talk about on Wukong. They dealt Misfits their first loss in EU playing Wukong. I watched the game. It obviously wasn't all really about the Wukong or anything, but it was a cool pick. It did come out. It did work into the Yasuo, and that's something that I feel like I've heard even just recently, like when Wukong got a small nerf because its solo queue win rate's really high. I saw tons of pros and the community all memeing this nerf. Wukong's so trash. Like why would he ever get nerfed? Like this is the most garbage champion in the game, and then, to see it come out and winning competitive, like, was pretty cool. So I could very easily see, had that game gone poorly, that people would be like, what is Caps thinking? Why would you think that Wukong would work, right? This champion's trash. So it's very results-based, and I think that you have to you have to take the good with the bad, right? Like if Caps is busting out, all kinds of crazy different stuff mid, some of it's going to work, some of it's not going to work, and you have to give the benefit of the doubt that they are actually preparing these and that they worked in practice.
I mean, I definitely hear where you guys are coming from, but you don't have to give the benefit of the doubt, right? Like COD's composition. Just to play devil's advocate on this. Mm-hmm. Yes, they have a dive composition against Nocturne. That's like one part of they've crafted this entire composition to counter the first pick. But then they also have 5 melee champions against Braum, Gangplank, and Lulu. Right? So, and there is a difference between doing, I think, results-based analysis versus just actual analysis, and sometimes the result mimics what the analysis was. Like there are always going to be people on both sides of these arguments. Bjergsen himself in that interview said that like their Heimerdinger game, where they had too much magic damage and had no way of killing Mundo, that was actually like their big problem in that game. So in that case, the criticism is absolutely warranted because they innovated poorly. They brought in a new pick without being able to put the composition behind it to actually make it work. So of course you are going to get criticized in that context. So I agree with the fact that just, they lost the game, therefore boo, and they won the game, therefore yay. But like, you are going to get criticized if you do something poorly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just hard, right? Because I casted this game and I felt like TL did so many things well also, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I think that the game wouldn't have looked so bad had they not like built so intelligently, had they not played so well. Because it felt like TL basically made every response right. Like this was one of their games that I was like, damn, that might be, that was one of the best games of the split. Mm-hmm. From everything from impact, always backing off at the right times when roams could come top, to Pobelter doing this double spell pen build where he was able to like demount or kill Kled if he got demounted really fast, like, and then straight into his Zonias for dive there. And like, there was a lot of things like a locket rush from there's a lot of things I thought made a lot of sense and were really well done from TL that I felt like they just were better than CLG in that game, and it made that comp look worse than it was. But I still agree, like this comp is maybe not the best, right? Kled, my biggest concern, just doing actual analysis, like you're saying, is like Kled just wasn't really ahead in farm at all in the early game because Kled doesn't farm fast enough in the jungle until you have a team at, right? And so he wasn't getting any significant advantages. So that's where I can see there being more of a problem. But I still can see a world in which TL responds more poorly and gets run over. And once you're behind against this sort of comp, you just keep pressing R every time it's up for a Kled and you're going to kill them.
Yeah, I don't think that the Team Liquid comp was especially good at dealing with CLG's comp.
Okay.
Like even though they have no super strong tank or whatever, Braum is pretty annoying, but it comes back to kind of what he was talking about, where the early game they weren't actually able to funnel this Kled, right?
Right.
He didn't actually have.
Lulu seemed like a really good pick.
He didn't have much of an advantage there. My problem is, with people attacking, even them coming up with the idea to try and run a Kled funnel,
and they're saying, "Oh man, Kled funnel is so stupid." I think Kled funnel and hard dive competitions can work.
I think hard dive can definitely work. Like they even had like the Vladimir in there for plenty of magic damage, and I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Physical damage dive from the Kled, and especially the Pike, right, with the Vladimir, all that stuff synergizes really well. But
all right.
Anyway,
moving on. Talk a little bit of the meta. Patch 8.14 is coming out in pro play. So funnel, dead, not dead. Thoughts?
Let me first just go on a personal rant about this Monster Hunter change, which we were very critical of it when they came out with it. After it was implemented and I played on it, I am even more pissed off. Because as I said last week on the show, I played like 3 games. I got hit with the Monster Hunter penalty in 2 of my 3 games the first day that it came out. And one of them, I was 0-0-0. I was playing Evelyn. I had literally just cleared my camps. Both my solo laners died. Solo killed. So I was like, oh my God. I'm gonna have to carry this game, so I go over to one of my, I think it was mid lane to catch the double stacked wave here. I get hit with +4 gold. 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes into the game, my solo laners are already both dead. I'm like, oh God, well, I guess I'm the only hope here. You know, hopefully bottom lane's going to do well and I can get some extra money off these mid waves. Nope. Turns out, Monster Hunter, too bad. You happen to be the highest gold on your team. You're getting +4 here. And that just actually made me so angry that I was unbelievably tilted at the very beginning of this game.
If you get any kills early,
I was 0-0-0 SL. I didn't even have a kill.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
The other team did.
My team was just doing.
That was your first mistake.
My team was doing so poorly at CSing in their lanes, and they were getting solo killed, and that by clearing my camps with Evelyn, not even a fast clear.
Yeah, that's
was the highest gold on the team.
I was watching Lorlo stream last night. And he played a Nidalee jungle game. I think it was like Viper or someone was on his team, so he gave him top or whatever. He's like, okay, I'll play Nidalee jungle. And he got a kill relatively early, but he was down, I think, 2 levels on. He was playing against Grig on Grace. He was down 2 levels, and he was down 2 levels, I think, from his solo laners, at least at one point. But he had picked up the first kill, and then he got another kill or 2, and he was helping push out a wave, and he was getting 4 gold from all the backline. He was down he wasn't even really farming heavily, but because he had gotten he ended up getting, I think he was 3-1 or something relatively early. He had picked up a fair bit of kills. He was down multiple levels, but he still was getting hit with Monster Hunter just because that gold differential had made a big difference. And that, to me, felt really bad seeing that because it was like the playstyle of focusing mostly on just ganking and not farming as much was actually punishing him because he got those kills. And then when he's pushing out the wave, it was like +4, +4, +4. And I was like, ooh.
On a slightly brighter note, this isn't going to help you at all, Kobe. But I heard that they're thinking of changing it from highest gold to highest farm. And usually the jungle CS is relatively accurate. So, like, I
think that's a good change.
In that situation, you're still going to get 3 gold. But in Lorlo's situation, it's going to be better. So I think it's
don't take me down to 3. Effect. You get 4.
That's 25% off.
4 instead of 14.
Yeah. There's also I'd heard some stuff about, like maybe like a kill tag where it's like if you kill them for the next 30 or you get kill or assist for the next 30 seconds, you're not hit by this. So helping push it out.
Still won't help Kobe, but will help everyone else.
Yeah. But if you go top and you gank and you trade kills, you can push it out and then maybe not be hit. Yeah. So those would be nice.
Anyway, we can move on from one of the most tilting things that has happened in a while to covering kind of, since we already did talk about this patch before. I literally just picked one thing that I thought was going to be super cool for competitive.
Well, Kobe, I had a Twitter question that can put us in here just to basically someone asked the exact same question is like,
will you do an interpretive dance to act out the Twitter question?
At Mexico One Love. No, I can't dance that. What are some champs that will get some love in pro play this patch that normally hasn't been getting any love?
No, that completely diverts from my point that I was going to.
I'll answer his question after your point.
Okay. I picked Ghost Poro because I was pretty sure Zale was going to pick TP.
Okay.
So I picked Ghost Poro. They made a change to this line, the ward line basically, of the domination runes, and I really like the change. Zombie ward, now if you kill an enemy ward, then you get bonus magic damage on you next time you hit a champion or something. And for Ghost Poro, you can leave him, he'll stay there forever unless he gets scared away by someone on the enemy team going into a brush. But if you or the Poro on the opposite side of the map, you get a bunch of attack damage or ability power depending on your build. And I've been sneaking into the enemy jungle level 1, like getting my team to invade every time, and just hiding my Ghost Poro in one of the brush that people rarely go through. It's actually huge for a jungler. I think it's almost mandatory to go something in domination.
So if they check the brush that the Ghost Poro was in, the Ghost Poro gets scared away.
It gets scared away, and you can't do another one for 60 seconds.
Okay.
However,
after it gets scared.
Right. After it gets scared. Okay. However, if it doesn't get scared, you can constantly put it into any brush that you're passing.
Move it whenever you want.
You can constantly be moving it.
Nice.
So for the majority of the game, since I'm thinking about it, I'll have these extra stats. And it's a lot of extra stats, especially, like I said, jungling the level 1 stats. not a lot of the runes will give you flat stats for level 1 for jungling anymore.
Yeah.
So I just think that this is so good, and it actually doesn't even have that high of a win rate at the beginning. I think people are just not using it.
Yeah, they probably aren't
correctly.
And especially like I'm just thinking solo queue in like, okay, if you get super high, people start actually jungling more intelligently and starting at different things. Almost every time people just get leashed by their bot lane, right? So if you just invade on topside jungle and put it in a brush over there, you're gonna have that for almost your whole clear, like pretty much guaranteed.
And on top of the damage that you're getting, it's actually giving you vision.
Yeah.
Important invade, like deep vision. So
you could just do their second buff. Let's pour on that.
I think that competitive might evolve to having these level 1s and also having people search around for ghost boros.
Yeah.
Get it out of there.
Oh, I found 5 people instead. Oops.
Yeah, exactly.
But I got the ghost boro, so it was worth.
I just think that this is one of the most interesting, like, little talent changes that we've done in so long. And I've been having a lot of fun with it in solo queue.
Good shout out.
Okay, do your champion one.
It's boring. Corki. And it's not. It's the spirit of the question is like he's had love in the past. He just hasn't had love recently. The fact that he got 40 damage on his rank 1 Gatling gun means he'll be played in mid lane. We talked about it last week, but I just wanted to reaffirm that we will see Corki.
Reaffirm. 40 damage is a lot
at rank 1.
Flat damage.
That's actually insane.
When abilities normally do 60 to 80 damage, adding 40 to something is a lot.
You're going to see a lot of Corkis stand to the side of the minion wave, press E, and then right-click on the opposing mid lane champion.
Yeah. I wonder... Nah, it wouldn't be worth it. Because like a lot of times you don't auto-attack someone because you're going to draw minion aggro. If you just E and not auto-attack them, you're not going to draw minion aggro because it's not a single target spell.
If you're over there behind like their ranged minions at them, though, then they're going to be attacking you. And I'm pretty sure if you're not attacking back, they're going to win the trade.
Probably. But still agreed. We're going to see a lot of Corki. The TP stuff, yeah, I can mention that because you talked about Kobe. I think TP is still mandatory top lane for competitive. I think it's just worse, and I think we don't see TP bot lane anymore. And mid lane, it's going to be much more situational. The only thing I think that might change a little bit is I think we should start seeing more spellbook. I actually think that Summoner Spellbook is really underrated now since it got changed from like you only need 6 versus you needed 8 before to kind of run the cycle. So I've actually been playing a fair bit of Spellbook. I was playing Spellbook on Malzahar and Spellbook on a few tanks and things like this. And it's actually pretty damn good now. Like once you've gone, if you have to actively be trying to use these summoners like pretty quickly, even if it's just a trade. But once you've gone through your cycle of 6, it's a 2-minute cooldown, plus you still have your regular cooldown on your original summoner. So you can do something like you just take TP, mid lane, for example, and then you lock in Ignite and you try to fight them, and then you swap to Exhaust and you exhaust them and you fight them, and then you go heal and barrier, and you just keep cycling through. And it's actually pretty effective. And once you're in the later stages of the game, it feels like you always have a summoner for every single fight. Maybe it's not the exact one you want, but you're always going to have a ghost or a heal or a barrier or a cleanse or something. And not only does it feel pretty effective, but it's actually like a lot of fun to play with. So that's the only thing where maybe I'll see people moving away from TP more is if they do that. But in general, I think it's just gone from bot lane. It's still mandatory top lane.
Which top laners or bot laners do you think would be best suited to taking Spellbook instead of TP?
So for Spellbook, I think that you could do it on a number of supports. Like you could do it on pretty much any of the Guardian supports if you want to make that trade-off. Like you could do it on a Braum, you could do it on a Tom Cantor, an Alistar, anything along those lines if you want to make that trade-off and feel like that exhaust or whatever is going to be more influential. I also think that you can do it on a lot of tank tops. Like if you're still going to play Ornn, I think Spellbook is totally reasonable there. If Sion or something comes back in, I think that could be reasonable instead of Common or whatever. Champions like that, probably mostly. I think for most of the fighters, it doesn't really make sense because like Conqueror and whatnot is just too strong. But generally, I think for more like kind of the supporty guys like tanks and stuff, it can be pretty strong. And for some of the mages that don't have a really good one mid lane, like Malzahar, Veigar, champions along those lines, I think it could be pretty effective. Maybe even like a TF or something.
Yeah, I'm curious to see too what decrease in teleports taken does to the strategy, right? Because people have been pretty outspoken, like, split pushing is kind of in a bad spot right now because there's like 4 teleports on every team. But if people can't join other areas on the map instantaneously and like instantly be grouped up for team fights, that is definitely change the way that
That's
people
true.
play, and also how they're drafting, and especially if the teleport cooldown is so much longer.
Yeah, one other thing, I'm trying to remember who said this. I want to say it was Stixay, but I'm not 100% sure. Was just that someone was saying that one of the pros was saying that they felt that TP nerf was also going to push mages and stuff out of the bot lane a lot more, because he felt that a lot of the mages have very weak early couple levels, and that the TP helps kind of bridge the gap to get them. Whereas like, when you see Vladimir versus whatever marksman, the Vladimir is usually getting bullied pretty hard, but then they get some gold, they TP back, they have enough levels now, and then they can start bullying.
I mean, if you only need the one TP, you still have the one and gun.
Yeah,
you just have to wait long for number 2.
It's true. So we'll see. We'll see if it does affect it, but it was just something that I thought I'd also mention, because it was something that people were talking about, maybe helping teams like TL that have been running more standard stuff and not really going for mages.
Moving on to North American LCS.
Baby.
The league is pretty close, I would say. Our first place teams are 6-4 with a 60% win rate. Our last place team is still Cloud9 at 3-6. So technically, they're only 3 games out of first. 3-7. Yeah, you're right. Damn. Still only 3 games out of first. Yeah. That Optic game never happened. Still can't wait.
Remember, we have the cosplay bet on if they're going to make the playoffs or not. So
they're only 3 games out of first.
I have found myself much more invested in Cloud9 games, just not wanting to be in cosplay. Which unfortunately for Cloud9 means I'm always cheering against them now. I'm like, yeah, you could lose.
Bias Azale now. Number 1 Cloud9.
Only when I'm watching from not the cast.
Yeah, only when there's gonna be makeup drawn on your face.
Exactly, yeah. Doesn't matter which team it is. If a team winning means I have to have a cosplay on, I'm probably cheering against you.
The state of our league is actually crazy though, because you are either a first place team, second place team, third place team, or Cloud9. Like you're either top 3 team or you're Cloud9.
There's Optic as well.
Technically,
right?
Kobe, if there's 4 teams tied for first, that does not make the 5th place team the second place team. That's not how it works.
All those teams are first.
Yeah, that doesn't mean the 5-5 teams are all
solidarity. They're all first.
It means they're all 5th. That's just your math.
That's how ties work, dude.
You're first, second, or 10th.
But 1 win will put you into first place. So I think what a lot of people are asking in all of this is like, is this parity that we see a sign that teams are bad or a sign that teams are good?
So, and the answer,
and why?
The most frequent answer, of course, and all the players have been talking about this too, is that it is partially, or a very large part, is due to teams trying so many different things with the changes to the game that they're not comfortable with. So yes, they are worse, right? They're making more mistakes. They're playing more things that they don't have 1,000 games on, right? So I think that is a reasonable answer, but it doesn't make me super confident for approaching international events because if you look at a lot of the other leagues, right, there are teams that are a lot more consistent.
Yeah, because that's where I will, if NA teams are saying the reason that there is so much parity is because there's been so much change in the game, I'll object because there is almost no parity in the EU LCS, and even though SKT is doing poorly, the top 5 teams, Griffin, KT, Genji, who's the defending world champions in Samsung, Kingzone, Afrika, they've been the good teams last split. They're the good teams this split, regardless of the meta. So like, there's
Kingzone's a little
Kingzone's a little up and down. But there's always a little bit of up and down. It's more like the teams at the top of the standings have really good records, and the teams at the bottom of the standings have really bad records, which just isn't the case in North America. Yeah. And I don't think that's because of the meta when all the other regions are the same as they were last split.
I think it can be because of the meta for our region, but that means that it still just means that your region is just not as good at this style, right? Which just means your region's worse. And like at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that when come Worlds and come those times like that things have not shifted enough or that teams have not learned it. Because to me, it's like it's not that the highs for the region are lower than before. It just feels like that the consistency is worse. Like TL has shown some pretty bad games, but then some of TL's games I think have been as good as like any games I've really watched in the NA LCS as far as like the level that they're playing at. Like I even thought that their game against the club funnel stuff like basically they handled everything pretty much perfectly. Like, it was hard to really complain about much in that game. So there are still those high level games that come through, but I do think that maybe some of our players aren't as flexible, and that's where some of the criticism has come from, and some of the like inconsistency has shown. Because people talking about they don't know the matchup, or they're not sure how it's supposed to play out later, or whatever, right?
Part of the problem is also people always want a simple answer when you're posing a question like that. And they're like, oh, yes, there'll be one holistic, easy answer that will explain away all these and take into account all the different changes and fringe effects. Right. Like, there are multiple, things affecting it.
Yep.
Some errors are being made unforced. Some you have to question, like, are there enough teams, in the other regions forcing errors and pushing the teams to try more stuff and get those errors out of the teams? Some cases, column A, some cases, column B.
Yeah, and that's what I think is happening in North America. I don't think it's something as simple as like, oh, all of our good teams are now bad, therefore everyone has the same record. I think FlyQuest, Golden Guardians both made big improvements, and they're seeing the rewards of that. It's just when you take the bottom 3 teams in your league and make them all better, like, that is going to compress the standings a little bit. And I think it is the inconsistency that prevents the top teams from still being the top teams. The top 2 teams last split at this time was EchoFox and Cloud9, and I can pretty definitively say that both those teams have gotten worse. So I think overall, the league, the bottom teams definitely got better, and the top teams got a little bit worse. That's why we're seeing parity. I don't think that's necessarily because we suck or that we're really good. It's just a mix of everything.
Yeah, totally agreed. I mean, it's tough, and if the TP changes and some of these changes that are coming through and the marksman buffs and whatever push it back to more normalcy in the bottom lane, then maybe a lot of that goes away, and we do see teams kind of getting some of that consistency back and starting to improve more.
I think that people have kind of gotten, like bit by the bug as far as, looking for alternate strategies now, though.
Yeah.
And I hope that, they're not just waiting for the moment where they see X marksman buff and they're like, oh, thank God, we can just go back to brain dead, do the same thing every game, right?
Some people definitely, I think, will.
I know some people are just waiting for that. They're like, oh, please, can
marksman buffs are coming in 7.15
standard or whatever.
Even 8.14 Jinx and some of the other.
As long as some of the teams, keep them honest though, and keep innovating, then I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's my hope as well. And I'm really excited to see how EchoFox is going to do. I think that's mostly what a lot of people are going to be waiting for this NA LCS weekend. And it's interesting because I have been hearing people talk about Lost for so long. And admittedly, I've not watched every Academy game by any means. But, talking to Mark, who obviously...
Did you watch any Lost games?
Yep.
Okay.
But talking to Mark and even just looking at some of the stats and stuff, I mean, EchoFox Academy blows, right? Like, they're 2-10.
Yeah.
But it's like... It's hard to then know, like, how, like, is he just a good player on a really bad team, or like how good is he? Because when you're on a team that's that bad, all your stats and stuff are going to be garbage. It's just pretty much always the way it goes. Your team is always losing, so you're always going to be behind. So like that doesn't really help. But I know Mark, has said that, like, he thinks he's a good player, but not like incredible by any means. But like that is the guy that I know the least about coming into this whole EchoFox scenario, right? Like Smoothie, I have confidence in. Demonte, I've seen quite a bit in, and he's a player I think that has a lot of room to grow. But it has also, I mean, even at Rift Rivals, I thought he was one of the best performers on EchoFox individually. So like I have quite a bit of confidence in the EchoFox team. Lost is just still this huge question mark for me, where I'm like, I have no idea what to think. And I think that's going to dictate a lot, because if he and Smoothie can work really well together, and their bot lane is not just like not only not a weakness but actually a strength, then this team would become so good, right? Like it gives so many more options, of kind of how to play out the game for someone like Dardoch, or like so many more kind of methods of attack, and could maybe take a lot more of the pressure off Huni too.
Yeah, and I want to just refocus a little bit. Let's say the playoff teams with 4 weeks left. Everyone's crazy. You got to pick. You can either pick your 6 that are going to make it, or you can pick your 4 that aren't going to make it.
It's the same thing.
You're doing the same.
It's literally the same thing.
Yeah, what the heck?
It's just a matter of how many words you want to say.
Okay. Who's not going to make it? Cloud9.
You're going for the easy way.
Cloud9.
Yeah.
Cloud9, I think. Who else?
Azelle really doesn't want to lose this bet.
Yeah.
They're also
Numerically the easiest answer. So you're starting easy, going by the percentages.
Man, it's kind of tough. I want to say like Cloud9 and Optic are the ones that I want to say like kind of immediately.
Yeah, and then Clutch. Now you've got all the lowest ones. There you go.
The teams that are one game out of playoffs, clearly they're not going to make it.
I'm not actually sure. I mean, it's tough though because like Golden Guardians, I look at them and it's easy to say, but I also feel like they've improved a lot and could actually easily be a playoff team. But there's such a small gap I think between all these teams that it's like really I could see any of the I could see FlyQuest not making playoffs. Like that wouldn't shock me, even though they are tied for first right now. If I had to choose right now, I'd probably say Cloud9, Optic, Clutch. God,
that means either Golden Guardians or FlyQuest should make it.
I actually feel like FlyQuest is maybe like for some
reason. You're not buying what they're throwing down?
For some reason, yeah. Like I just feel like
winners of 6 of their last 7.
Man, I don't know. I haven't bought in. I feel like a lot of their wins were really not very good. For some reason, I still just have more faith in Golden Guardians. I mean, they're all really close, but yeah, I guess that's what I think.
But with how the games have been going, your current standing, like the wins you already have, I feel
matter
like
a lot.
Matter so much.
But they're one win up on all the other teams that I would have to choose from. It's only one game. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like who are your 4?
Puts you in.
Who are your 4?
You can easily be tied for first now and not make playoffs.
Yeah. So that's my 4, I guess, if I have to say it now. But I think it's incredibly close. Like I could see CLG not making it. I could see Golden Guardians not making it. I could even see TSM not making it.
So lock in your 4.
Yeah.
I'll say FlyQuest, Clutch, Optic, Cloud9.
Yeah. This is a hard game, Jat.
It is a hard game.
Because we're almost certainly going to be wrong about something.
Yeah. One of these days, I'm not going to go first for one of these.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely don't always go first.
That's true. Yeah.
That day has already happened.
For the standings, I always go first. And then you guys are just harassing me, and then you're like, oh, this is pretty good.
Jat always asks a question, so he never goes first.
Ooh, that's
a
good
ask more questions.
That's good. He's thinking. He's got it all up here. It's the mastermind. Who's your 4?
I need to come up with it. No, now I need you make it harder because you took the easy answers.
And then you flamed him for taking the easy answers.
You can give the
same thing.
Yep. So I got to come up with some good.
Maybe those are the good answers.
I got to come up with some good crazy.
I'm still committed to Cloud9. Cloud9's making it.
How about this?
Cloud9's making it. So who are your 4 that don't make it then?
Well, it's 4 teams that aren't named Cloud9. Okay. That's for sure.
What?
I'm going to say Optic because the 2-0 week is huge for them, and obviously they have a chance of surging. But history and how they've looked in most of their games.
Power of evil can't carry the heaviest.
The heaviest animals in the world,
animals in the world or whatever he called them. And then in the interview, did you hear his interview response to that? Anyway, if you guys haven't seen it, Power of Evil posted a Twitter image of like heaviest animals on Earth or something. And it was like an elephant. And there was a picture of all 4 of his teammates. Yeah. And he tweeted this. And then Ovally asked him about that picture in an interview, and he said that Dokla actually saw the tweet before he sent it out and was like, dude, that's pretty rude. And he's like, but then I posted anyway because they're animals. And he said that in the interview. I'm like, damn, POE.
Yeah.
You're just going for it. Anyway, so they're not going to make
We're like greater than friends.
They're too heavy, clearly.
All right, yeah, they're definitely.
The one I'm struggling with is Clutch. Because they actually were in semifinals last year and consistently kind of won when everyone counted them out. But
Febman just hasn't looked good this year.
Febman hasn't looked at the same level.
Lyra?
I actually think their bottom lane has been. We spent a whole split building them up and saying how they're super underrated and they're always smashing. I feel like all the games they're losing, their lanes pushed into their turret, they're at 30% health, and then the dive's easy. I think that's happening way too often for them. So I'm actually going to say Clutch.
Start of the split, though.
I'm going to say Clutch and Optic.
Paulo is the kill leader up until
for a while.
Last week.
Yeah, I don't know if he still is or not. I haven't checked.
True. Yeah. He actually was doing super sick earlier on in the split. I'm always back and forth on Apollo.
Clutch. Who else?
Optic, Clutch.
So I just popped out my 4 answers just like that. You guys are just ruminating on.
We're gonna time this afterwards.
Yeah.
I'll just pop mine out. I don't care.
Coach been thinking this whole time.
I haven't even been thinking about it. All I've been trying to think about is how do I choose not the bottom 3 here that are all the easy answers, and I decided I'm just gonna choose those bottom 3. And then I'll add in the wild card. How about what TSM don't get in there?
TSM don't get in there. All right.
Yeah.
Optic, Clutch.
But he already said Cloud9's making playoffs, so he just has 2 still.
FlyQuest and Golden Guardians.
FlyQuest Golden Guardians.
It's all everything is crazy, and then it ends basically the same as it did last year, and you switch clutch.
None of us are gonna get it right, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. Like you're picking.
They're within one game basically. Yeah. So, all right, sweet. That's our 4.
Sick game.
Wait, what were your 4?
I said the bottom 3 and then TSM.
Oh, damn. All right, so Golden Guardians, congratulations. Kobe prediction.
Congratulations. Me and Azale both put him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he
there
did
you go.
FlyQuest.
Let this be known. Kobe, can you give us the quote? TSM will not make playoffs. Can you say that right now?
Yeah, say it. Say the words, Kobe.
Oh.
Also, will not make worlds. You got to say that too.
That's true.
We got to be able to clickbait it.
TSM will not make worlds this year.
There you go.
That's Kobe's prediction. Well, that's simpler than not making playoffs. Like,
yeah, he said it. That's the title of the episode.
Because you can still make playoffs and then not make worlds because only the
Kobe,
top 3
TSM
go.
will not make worlds. There you go. On Reddit.
I'm scared now. I want to retract
Technically,
it
though,
already.
Kobe did say TSM will not make playoffs.
But them not making playoffs means they don't make worlds.
Correct. But
So there you go.
More embarrassing to not. Okay. Twitter. Aaron San Jose says, if you were to build an NA LCS team around Faker, what would that team look like? Or which NA LCS team would be the best fit for Faker right now? I like the second part of this question, like which NA LCS team would be the best fit for Faker?
Team Liquid, baby.
No, because then they have to bench either Ole or Impact. It's import restrictions, dude.
Get Smoothie. Get Hazel.
I think people bring this up because Faker hasn't actually played every game for SKT. Pyrian was in again last night.
Yeah.
I think that's part of a larger discussion. I personally think they're actually just resting Faker. People don't realize he's been playing competitively nonstop for 5 years. But you're going to have your own take on that.
Just resting him, hey?
Do you? Because, okay, if Pyrian is better than Faker.
Dude, Faker doesn't want rest.
If Pyrian is not better than Faker, then Faker doesn't fit on an NALCS team because Pyrian did not fit on an NALCS team. He was on P1's bench for like a whole year.
What's your point?
Just answer the question. Like, which NALCS team would be the best fit for Faker? I still think Faker's good, right? I still think Faker's really good. Yeah. So if you're benching him for Pyrian, that would imply that he is not as good in Pyrian in some way, which I just object to.
So you didn't answer the question, though.
I can answer it now. I was figuring since I asked the question,
you guys are struggling today.
Answer.
Me? What?
All right, which team is it?
Faker would fit best onto
Golden Guardians.
Echo Fox.
Well, they have 2 imports now.
Yeah, I would just play a normal AD carry.
You just get
sign him off
back.
Academy. I'd sign like Rikara. Yeah, I'd sign Ultec back. I have Faker.
That didn't work.
All right. Yeah, I mean, for me, like with stuff like this, I feel like just popping Faker into a random team doesn't really work unless like if you have a Korean import and for them to be really successful in the NALCS, they actually really have to like want to live here and learn the language and be part of it because. I think that it would be such a struggle for anyone to just be popped into a team and like have no communication. That being said, he still would be an upgrade over like anyone.
I have a real answer. He fits best on 100 Thieves.
Oh, okay, I can see it.
Because then you have Faker someday, and then you still have Aframu shot calling if Faker can't communicate very well.
Yeah,
and that's the best.
I also have a late answer then. I do think TSM are going to make playoffs.
What? You can't change your mind.
Nope, there's no take backs. We already decided.
All right, next Twitter question. I'm not the
Bleep
first
that part out of the episode. You can't take it back.
Yeah, 2man1325. Could you guys give some insight into what is said over the comms between producers, casters, and analysts?
I mean, as far as like from caster point of view, not a lot. Sometimes there's things that like we don't really talk to producers and casters during the cast very often. Literally, one of the only things that gets told to me is when we do like Acer Predator replays and things like that.
Arthur tells me every morning, "You're looking great today."
Yeah, in rehearsal they say we like joke around and whatnot, but like during the actual games, it's like, oh, next replay is gonna be an Acer Redditor replay. Oh, okay, now it's time to
replay.
Yeah, there you go. It's next. It's time to toss or whatever.
Dude, that's a spoiler.
There's not a lot. There's really not a lot for during the actual cast.
Yeah, because if they're talking to us during the cast, then it's gonna mess up our
stats and stuff. Sometimes can be cool. Like sometimes
but it's usually if we
or,
call for it, right?
Yeah.
They don't usually just come in our ear to tell us something unless it's a pause or there's a bug or something.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah. For those people who don't know, the box you have has a cough button, which you can press, which mutes you, and it has a talkback button, which mutes you to the stream, but allows you to talk directly to people in the control room. So occasionally, like when I was casting, I would use the talkback if there was something that like I needed, like
a stat.
I ran out of water, or like literally I need this stat, or hey, could you rub this graphic? Like sometimes those things would be used. On the analyst desk, the main time we'd actually get updates during a segment is if there is a pause, or if they need to give us an update on how much longer it's going to be, or what it is, or if they're correcting us on something. But it's always very short bits of communication because you can't distract. Every time someone else is talking to you, you're not listening to the conversation around you.
Yeah.
So it's usually pretty brief, and most of the communication happens in between the segments where you're requesting assets for replays, or asking for graphics, or getting told stuff.
Yeah, the asking for graphics thing we do more internationally because the EU team has kind of a different workflow, where here usually our guys like fly the graphics on their own, or let us know that they are about to fly a graphic. Whereas in EU, a lot of times they do it opposite, where the casters want to call for it at a specific time that they feel it best fits in the conversation. So we're working with those guys. Then we do a lot more of that, where it's like we want to talk about a cool stat for Afremu on Blitzcrank. Then he picks Blitzcrank, and then it's in the game. You're like, okay, we're ready for the graphic or whatever. But yeah, not a lot.
Okie dokie. Thank you for. You got anything else, Kobe? See, this is why I was typing something in the Slack room about
Jeff Menzen.
Well, I wasn't going to do the other Twitter question because we already answered this. It says, thank you, Jeff Menzen, for the question, but he asked if the unprecedented parity of the NA LCS represents increasing the quality of teams or volatility of the current meta. That was the beginning of our NA LCS discussion.
Good job, Jeff.
And this is why you don't talk to producers during segments, because you're not listening that well. And therefore your transition is okie dokie. And then you go into the toss.
Episode 22, season 2, okie dokie.
That's going to do it for this episode of The Dive. Thanks again for joining us.
Remember, hell of an episode, boys.
The NALCS kicks off with Countdown at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, and will be followed by TSM versus Cloud9. See you then. Okie dokie.